Hello, everyone. Welcome to the interview today. I'm joined by Mado today, developer of the Violence series. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Of course, yes. So, hi, I'm Mado. I'm currently being entrapped in this frame like a bug entrapped in amber. Please excuse me while I. Sorry, please excuse me. If I act a little bit funny, it's because I'm in this predicament right now. So, please give me some grace. Anyways, I am the developer of the Violence series Malviolence, Proto-Violence, and now Interviolence, which has a demo out on Steam. Yeah. So it is a dark sci-fi story game series. And the reason why I go for story game series versus visual novels is because Interviolence is an RPG Maker game. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in our interview. But yes, I am a game developer, a writer, and an artist. Yeah.
Woohoo! Yeah. I played the demo for that and your games, and also a friend of mine who's actually in the chat right now. He said, "Oh no, you're stuck in the frame." uh, Captain Troy Handsome. He had played Malviolence, I believe. Yeah, on stream. Yeah, it was pretty
Mhm.
cool watching him go through
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, it's easy game by any means. I've watched a couple of playthroughs behind the scenes when I'm off of development, and I see people's really struggling with the puzzles, and I'm like, yeah, I probably should have included a warning saying that these puzzles are, a bit interesting. I'll put it that way.
That's where the Inter from Inter Violence came for the sequel.
That's right. That's exactly where Interviolence came from. Not because I couldn't think of any other title to call this thing.
Yeah, of titles, what titles have you been into lately? Whether it's just like, video games, movies, activities, etc.
Oh boy, I have a whole list of stuff right down here. So, if you've been following me for like the past 9 months, you'll know that I have entered severe Deltarune brain rot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been a fan of Toby Fox's work since like Undertale and even before like Undertale's release too. Like I was in the Homestuck fandom, but man, chapters 3 and 4, when they came out like 9 months ago, oh God, it really was that long ago. When they came out 9 months ago, they kind of just enveloped my mind, and I can't stop thinking about them even now. So, yeah, that's kind of been like my main focus, but it's not been like the only thing. So, in terms of other stuff, there's The Pit. Have you actually been watching The Pit? Do you like medical dramas?
I've heard of it, but personally I have not watched it. But tell us about it.
Okay, yeah. So basically, it's a medical drama that's set in Pittsburgh, and it focuses on a 15-hour shift in the day, in the day of a the head attending Dr. Michael Rabinovich, or known as Dr. Robbie, and what goes in and out of the ER and stuff. And so the first season, just kind of introduces all of the characters who work in the ER, their kind of like histories, and focuses on like the patient cases of the day. And then later on, like kind of the stakes rise. And so the second season is following a similar pattern where we have some returning doctors and nurses and med students and stuff. And then we have some new faces, like some new kinds of doctors, some new nurses, some returning patients, etc. And then a different kind of crisis happens. And they're also set at different periods of time too. So the first season is set in like, I want to say the first season is set in the I have a terrible memory, so forgive me if I'm wrong. I want to say it's set in the winter, and then the second season is set literally on the 4th of July weekend. So there's that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So it's like focusing on just like this one shift and many different patients and doctors.
Pretty much, but I think what's interesting about its storytelling is that each episode takes place like an hour into the shift. So each episode is like, I don't know, let's say 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 12 p.m., that sort of thing. So you're literally focusing hour by hour what a day shift in the ER is like. And then when you kind of get that sense of like how busy and chaotic and frankly stressful it is to be in the ER just and in a 1 day shift. It's kind of scary, but also interesting to it's kind of sobering to think about, like, how there are people who are doing this day by day, like as their day job every week and stuff, just like willingly. And I'm like, wow, that's personally speaking, that's something that I probably would not have the fortitude to do. But I think part of the reason I'm watching it though is because my twin sister Clue is in med school right now. She's an MD PhD and she's about to go into her rotations, and one of her first rotations is ER. So it's also just kind of knowing that she's getting into that directly. She's going to be facing these exact situations.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also
Um,
there's like there's also some deep cuts in it too. Literally the newest episode had a furry and Anthrocon discussed in it. So I'm saying, like, if nothing
wait.
else, you just gonna see random guys in Pittsburgh.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, that kind of of all the things you mentioned, like, I was just like, "Yeah, yeah, 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 yeah," and then you said fairies, I was like, "Oh,
hmm
well, let me,
One
load
of
up
the
that
doctors
episode."
gets one of the doctors or med students gets her persona diagnosed. So like, yeah, no, you should absolutely watch it, even for those crazy things. There's
Oh
some
my
pretty silly
gosh.
patient cases among the scary ones. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that sounds interesting. Of two things to note from me, my husband is a Grey's
Mhm.
Anatomy fan, and so I know that would probably really interest them if I brought it up.
Mhm. No,
And
I think it's yeah, and what's the other thing?
oh, what were your thoughts?
Oh, no, what I was gonna say is if he likes Grey's Anatomy, he'll definitely like that. He'll definitely like it too, because it's definitely like a medical drama, but it's one that focuses a lot on the realism.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, that
Mhm,
sounds cool. And the
mhm.
other one was, yeah, my siblings and myself, well, we worked in hospitals for a little bit. I
Ooh.
currently, but they really studied it, and
Mhm,
as opposed to me, who I'm just like not in that big of a position, but yeah, to look at it and see how hard they work is
mm,
very intense.
mm, for sure, for sure. I mean, again, just speaking about my twin sister and her hospital experience too, it's a similar phenomenon because I see her come back from med school and from her clinical rotations and whatnot, and just knowing what's ahead of her in like a couple of weeks with because she's going into her first rotation is actually surgery, and I'm like,
Wow,
oh
wow.
god, good luck, because she's just kind of like mentally preparing herself for that because it's going to be like a lot of long hours, and she does not want to do surgery as her specialty, which is why she's doing like the specialty she does not like first before she gets into the ones she does like.
Oh, so are they like required to do like all of them before going into what they want?
So I think you're allowed to pick and choose like when you can do like certain rotations and stuff. That's what my twin sister said, but she intentionally just picked the one she didn't like to do first so that she could weather through them. And then in her later years, when she's balancing that and her PhD, she's doing the stuff she likes more. And from what I know about her, the one she's really interested in is neurology and psychiatry.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I didn't never really knew that. But it's interesting and awesome having those kinds of passions. And that reminds me of stuff you're passionate about, such as developing games. And
Yep.
what was some of the first instances that inspiration struck you and you knew I want to make and develop games?
So this is gonna be a fairly long story, but I'll try to truncate it because I got notes about like different periods of when I decided game dev was for me. I had some early attempts at game dev when in my early teens when I like booted up RenPy when it was like at version I want to say the early V6 build of RenPy or something. And back when I was like at that age, I wanted to make like a visual novel based off of what I was interested in at the time, whether it was this one particular Pokemon movie, The Rise of Darkrai, or a Homestuck AU I never ever kind of brought out, like never ever like showed to the world or anything like that. And a lot of my motivation towards using RenPy and stuff was a lot of kind of seeing the release of Katawa Shoujo, which was that one free visual novel that was released by Four Leaf Studios after years of development hell. And I think me seeing firsthand like the level of polish and care that went into what was basically just a free passion project made me go like, well, I want to make something like that too. And most of my results around that time were like, that made me go like, oh no, I actually want to do like game dev seriously. Because what Undertale told me was that like, it taught me that anyone can just pick up a controller and start making games. And but also that like, more importantly, if you want to make a game that people will remember, it's probably better to just put all of what you're interested in, put all of your, I guess, put your passions, put what you like in other games and other movies, books, etc., into your own creative work, and try not and what you personally find funny, emotional, moving, that sort of thing. And more often than not, a lot of people will resonate with that more so than like a work that has been kind of like focused grouped to hell and back, I think. So that was the second game that really made me think that, just because of how how short but how impactful it was despite that length. And then the third game was Fate Stay Night, because it really made me rethink my approach to visual novels. Up until that point, my approach to visual novels was kind of like dating sim. I'm going to write a dating sim with several routes, I guess, because most of the exposure I had to visual novels up until that point, especially in the OELVN scene, were like dating sims and romance games and stuff like that. And that's not to say that Fate Stay Night didn't have those things either. But what it also had was an interesting overarching story too. Like just like it had like very big action set pieces, and just and a lot of introspection into Shiro, the main character's approach to heroism in each route. And I found that and its presentation really compelling, and made me think like, oh, I can, make so I can there are visual novels out there that can tell these grand stories and be liked by loads and loads of people. And I can just make one. I don't have to go strictly down the romance game, the dating sim route. Now I say dating sim up until here, but what I actually have in mind are just more like, typical choice-based romance games versus like the stat raiser stuff, which is probably more accurate to what a dating sim is. But yeah, I think it was the visual novel that finally made me realize I can push myself further with this particular form of games.
Yeah, definitely. Those are really good choices, and really big variety of them. I very nice. I like those ones. Thank you.
Thank you.
Someone here is mentioning, if you don't mind, they're asking who you think the Roaring Knight is.
Who I think the Roaring Knight is? Very good question. I think there are a lot. I mean, I'm going to be the kind of obvious one and say I personally think it's Des, but I also think that there's a massive but, but there's something else in the mix too. I'm not entirely sure if it's like just Des or something like that, or if there's something else going on. But I think there's just too many signs for it not to be or have Des involved in some way. That's what I think for right now.
The Rudy Knight truther.
I know there's some people who are like Rudy Knife truthers, or even the elusive Carol Knight or Papyrus Knight truthers. Papyrus Knight! Oh, we always bet on Papyrus Knight, actually.
He's gonna come up and say, yeah.
True. But really, with Deltarune, I'm not so much into like the theorizing part, and just more like I'm just interested in whatever surprise comes my way.
Yeah.
Really.
And it always happens like you're like, oh, okay, I know how it's going down, and then you're like, no, you don't.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, but actually no, because I remember like right before chapters 3 and 4 dropped and stuff, everyone was kind of like trying to figure out what was going on in TV World or whatever, and like trying to figure out, oh, this is what Tenna looks like, this is what Mike looks like, and like variety of TV head OC darkners and stuff like that. But no one, and like he was a TV head, but no one could have predicted that he was in 3D like a pre-rendered Donkey Kong Country cutscene.
Donkey Kong Country. Oh man, yeah, that's so true. They also liked your Pokemon mention.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the that movie was my personal favorite, The Rise of Darkrai. I always really like stories where, you have these characters that initially seem villainous, but they're actually trying to protect something very dear and personal to them, and they're willing to like do crazy things to make sure that the thing that the people and the places that are important to them are kept safe. So you can naturally see why I latched onto movie 10's Darkrai
Mhm.
like glue.
Yeah,
And I also I'll say like I don't think it'd be hard to determine who my favorite Undertale character is through that description either. So I want you to take a guess before I just say who it is.
That's I feel like I'm gonna get it wrong. Chat, why don't you? um, Speaking of doing things, before I say that,
Mhm.
I feel like we sort of went into this briefly before, but how did the Violence series itself come to you?
Ah, okay. Very, very interesting question because the Violence series has an interesting history. Um, I think it first came in its current iteration with NaNoRenO. So NaNoRenO 2023 happened, and I was like, I've done a lot of solo developing. I want to try developing a game as a team just to see how I'd work as a director. And so I pitched Malviolence as that game, that team game, and pitched the character of Caution and Dr. Danger and stuff, and the whole escape room gimmick with NaNoRenO. And so NaNoRenO came and went. Malviolence's original version released. It was kind of unbalanced, to put it lightly. And then I worked on Definitive Edition and it was put onto Steam. But in terms of the more interesting part of the history, Caution as a character actually existed earlier than Malviolence. If you've been around my blog enough or scrolled back enough, he's actually existed since 2022, and he wasn't a boy originally either. He's originally a girl. And the concept behind this original Girl Caution was there was this light novel writing contest on this website called Honeyfeed or whatever, and I was just like, I want to earn some money. I need money. I have to write money. And his character just kept on coming up in my head time and again cuz like I think one of the prompts for that year's Honeyfeed light novel contest was I think it was kind of like a school setting, like a school slice of life setting. And so I was like, okay, My Hero Academia, but with villains and, all villains of all mad mad scientists of all kinds. Like you have a mad chemist or a mad, I don't know, a mad radiologist, a mad physicist, those, and like other subspecialties too. And they're all kind of like working together in class, and there's some external, situations that happen. And so the main character would just be some kind of like nobody who gets in Caution's adventures, and there's this kind of will they, won't they sort of thing between them. I think looking back on that, I find that concept I find that concept incredibly generic, and I'm very glad I went with the direction I did now with Caution's character, because I think a lot of what what developed with the Violence series kind of developed as I created the first game, and then was kind of elaborated upon when I was writing Proto Violence. So I was really kind of building the setting and putting it in stone as I was working on as I was working on each entry and seeing where I'd go from there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that you started it in that way and kept working on it to make the definitive edition. Were you still with a team for that one, or did you do that mostly by yourself?
I worked with my team for that one because a lot of the issues with the original Jam version of Malviolence were based on puzzle difficulty. And so like I did a lot of the front end stuff, like adding new assets and that sort of thing. But a lot of the issues were more back end, like puzzle design, making things more accessible for people who wanted to play the game, and providing many different ways of completing the game so that people who just wanted to enjoy the story could just enjoy the story, and people who wanted to, you know, play the game at its hardest difficulties could do so and feel like they achieved something when they got the achievement for it. So I wanted it to cater to different styles of play.
Hmm. Yeah, and those puzzles did look really good. When I saw them, definitely playing through and through all the streams, I keep thinking like, oh, those are really smart puzzles.
Hmm. Well, you can thank you can thank you can thank Spec for designing them, and Kikyo for helping program them as well. They were the two who really were behind a lot of the puzzle stuff.
Yeah, that's really cool. Um, Originally you did not work with RPG Maker, so when I saw it was a RPG Maker MZ one, that's when my ears like sort of like perked up, because
Hmm.
something I'm sort of familiar with. So what made you want
Right.
to go for that instead for Interviolence?
Well, I think a big part of it was just because it was an engine I wanted to try and use seriously for once. I've dabbled in various RPG makers before, but I never really made a complete game in the engine. So I just wanted to see if I liked the engine enough to use it for future projects. Because, I mean, I love RenPy. I've used RenPy for years and years and years, but there are just certain things that RenPy cannot do right now, like overworld scenes and certain effects. And also because I grew up watching and playing a lot of variety of RPG Maker games, whether it's like Moga's games um or or Sagawa's games, that sort of thing. And I was like, I always want to try my own spin on an RPG Maker style titles. So Interviolence is kind of my response to that, and also kind of like a proof of concept for, I think, certain systems I want to use or keep in place for like future games I make with the engine, I guess. So a lot of Interviolence, and I think a lot of my stuff with the demo especially was figuring out the systems, what plugins I would lean on again and again, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and you did, as someone's familiar with it, you did a really cool thing with it where you could have the 8 ways walking, the different,
Mhm.
even the different windows for different situations, which I found really, really cool. Like
Mm,
for flashbacks, for like the texting, and
yeah.
when they're face to face and they have their portraits, and I was like, whoa, that's really awesome.
Yeah. I have to say a lot of that, the UI stuff, I had a lot of help from two really talented JS coders, Ashiana and SRD. They were both instrumental into helping me get those to work. So I owe a lot to them for, helping me make those systems a reality, I think.
Yeah, and did you make the different ones for like the different portraits you used for the windows too?
So I drew the portraits, but the ones with but the actual plugin that used the portraits and stuff, the base plugin was made by a Japanese creator called Therop. They made the original plugin, and then Oceana kind of edited it to a bit to allow it to have the side portrait and the back front portrait at the same time.
Wow,
So it was kind of a modified version of that.
that's really cool. Chat. Also, this is about Undertale. Is your favorite character Spamton?
That's not an Undertale character. That's a Deltarune character.
Oh, I'm a fake fan. I was confusing it with something else.
Oh no no. So you can try again. You can try again. No worries.
Okay, is your favorite Deltarune character Spamton?
No, close but no.
Oh no. Okay, we'll get
I
back to
think
that. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, we'll get back to that later. You can keep asking me.
Keep asking. We'll go down the list of characters in both games.
Eventually we'll get there.
Um, so a lot of the times you've already shouted out your team, but what was it like working with the team, and have you been more used to solo before this? I think you have half answered this, but I wanted to hear your thoughts.
So I think like I prefer working. I don't know. There's like some certain things I like working solo, and some certain things I really like working in a team for. So for solo projects, it's the feeling of like, oh yay, I'm doing everything by myself. Oh my god, all my own achievements and stuff. But this also leads to like a lot more pressure being put on yourself if and also a lot more restrictions being put on yourself, especially if you're working towards a strict deadline. So if you're working towards like a bigger deadline, stuff like that, I actually prefer working in a team now versus working solo. And I think a big part of why I was so hesitant to work in a team for so long was this feeling of like, okay, but will my creative vision be diluted, like diluted if I asked for other people to work on it with me? And what I found out was actually no, that's not the case. If you're a director by default, you are telling other people how to execute your creative vision in areas that you cannot personally execute. And I think if you have enough of like a library, like a visual, an auditory, a writing library, in terms of like how you want certain scenes or certain music to be executed, then it will still come across as your entire vision. And I think this also applies not just to like games I personally develop too, but games I often see tutored as like, solo dev efforts. Like, yeah, I'm gonna bring up Undertale again, as always, but everyone talks about like Undertale as a solo developed game. And to be clear, a lot of it was developed by Toby himself. All the music is definitely his, and a lot of the sprite work is his. But we can't forget about the contributions of everyone else who worked on the game too, whether it's, artists like Temi Chang, who did a lot of the neater sprite work, or individual artists who did like individual areas, like the background pixel art by Marigo, or the banner poster of Mew Mew by GGDG, and even in forms of coding, in the forms of coding too, like the scene between Bratty and Catty, where they had like the dual message window in their shop window and stuff, was not coded by Toby. I'm trying to remember who did do the coding for that, but yeah, it's like it was a lot more of a team effort than a lot of people say it is, even though Toby once again did most of it. And I think that's just important to mention too, because a lot of people who like start game dev and stuff, myself included, think like, oh, I have to do this all by myself. No, you do not. It's if you want to have your creative vision stay strong and still feel like yours, just develop a strong visual just develop a strong creative library and use that to direct how you want certain things to be executed. That's what I'd say. Yeah. Actually, so going on about my own team experience, just to finish, I really just like seeing everyone's contributions come together in areas I know I cannot do by myself, which is like music or voice acting or like the more back end sides of coding. And I'm like, wow, you guys could do that. I could never. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I 100% agree. That's why since I also like collabing with people whenever making games, and someone once told me, they were like, oh, why don't you just learn how to draw and do everything by yourself? I'm just like, well, I also enjoy the act of collaborating, as evidenced by all the things I made. And today, like being able to reach
Yeah,
out and get to know people is very important to me.
of course. Yeah, high key agreed.
um let's see. So this next one, I believe you do have a video of it you've mentioned, but I want to ask it anyway so we could shout that out. Is there a certain way you organize your story beats and ideas for those games?
Yeah. So I actually made a talk at Visual Conference for that. I want to say back in the start of 2024, where I talked about how I directed and wrote Protoviolence's story from start to finish and stuff. And I went over like in depth like my steps. But if to summarize what I said there, my steps were plot skeleton, where I just kind of showed like this is how I want the plot to go in the simplest of terms. And then I went to rough scene notes, where I kind of added the fat and muscle to the skeleton and was going like, and I was like, these are the scenes that I want to have in my story that follows the skeleton. And then I made proper drafts of the scenes, where I did like the prose and dialogue, and I usually did 3 passes for that. Then I implemented the like third draft into the game, and when I'm in the game, I generally make like a final pass or something if I'm still not 100% satisfied with what I've written, and then I kind of ship it out. That's an overview of my process.
Cool. And you did share the video link with that for us
Mhm.
too, where you talked about it in more depth. So I shared that in there, and I'll also have it in the description.
Mm.
Hey, cool. So I noticed that a lot of your you're a very musical person. Is this correct?
Mhm. Mhm. I sing in my spare time. Not recently, but I would like to get back to it, join a choir or take singing lessons again when I'm in when I'm in a better place. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a sort of two-part question. Do you have any favorites musicals?
Yes, I think most things by Stephen Sondheim are ones I really, really like. In
Mm,
particular, Into the Woods is the one that really speaks to me, I
yeah.
think, right now. But I love some of the other stuff he's done, like Company, and I liked a lot of his writing for what was that? The other one, West Side Story. I loved a lot of his writing for West Side Story, and yeah.
If you had the chance, say it's in your town and we're doing a tour, is there any musicals you'd want to be a part of if you could?
hmm Well, I just wrote down Company and Into the Woods, so we'll go with those two.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm,
Yeah, those are really
mhm.
good answers.
Yeah.
And heading back to the game and writing aspects, what's your method of keeping your workflow and drive alive and fun and like keeping burnout away?
You're asking me at a very interesting time of my life to be a very interesting time to be asking this because I'm actually very burnt out after releasing the Interviolence demo. But my usual attack plan and kind of what I'm trying to get myself to do right now is switch between tasks I want to do and what I don't want to do. So, for example, let's say I'm working on the pixel art, like the character movement art of a character in Interviolence. And then that just kind of leaves me burnt out. And I'm like, I don't want to do any more pixel art. I go and move on to a different part of the project, whether it's like working on, I don't know, the UI or working on the writing of the game or directing people with the music. So I just kind of switch gears and focus on a different part of development. So that way the game is still making progress, but I'm also not working on a part of the game I really do not want to be working on.
That's a good method to work on the different aspects. Have you
Mm.
ever like worked on different projects like interchangingly, or do you usually just focus on one at a time?
You are asking me at a very interesting time because I'm doing this right now. I am working on two big projects right now. One is obviously the full version of Interviolence, and the other is I'd say unannounced, undescribed Deltarune fan project.
Ooh,
I cannot say what it is yet because I haven't formally announced it yet. I've just talked about it in vague terms repeatedly on social media. But I am working hard on it. I've been working on it since October and it is slated for a mid-May release. So I'm trying to shift gears a bit by working on less intensive parts of Interviolence right now, the full version, and then shifting gears to kind of like push this project out as I kind of slowly work towards the finish line with it.
hell yeah, that's awesome! Thanks so much. I'm looking forward to that, and it's pretty soon too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. I guess if there's no more guesses towards your favorites, is the,
No more
I
guesses? You can have one more.
okay? I have one more for Deltarune. Wait, Deltarune or Undertale? Which are we guessing? Both of them?
I said Undertale, but you know what? You can do one for each.
Okay. Okay, obviously your favorite character is WD Gaster.
Wrong.
Metaton.
No. Mettaton's like my third favorite in Undertale, so you've reached like the top three.
Alphys.
Yes. Alphys is my favorite in Undertale. I was actually hinting towards Undyne as the one I mentioned earlier of characters who seemed kind of villainous at first, but are actually
Oh
very
yeah.
really about protecting
I
their
don't
loved
know.
ones.
I don't know how that slipped my mind. That's so funny.
Yeah. I guess it makes sense though, because like recently Undyne and Alphys kind of changed places in my head about who my favorite was. Now Alphys is very strictly my favorite, but yeah.
Yeah. Chat's going wild. They love it, and
Okay.
it's very funny. Here are the guesses for what's it called, Deltarune, unless it's this, Chris Noel.
No, no.
uh, These whole that's so WLW of her to Oshi office. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit. Sans.
Nope. I did say Deltarune this time.
Wait, do you count Sans as a Deltarune character, or do you count?
I see him as an okay. So look, if they're a returning character from Undertale and Deltarune, I still file them away in my head as an Undertale character, just because like they're they're just so associated with that game for me that when I think about Deltarune, I think about Deltarune originals, like those who first appeared in Deltarune.
Ah.
Although technically with Sans. If you want to play that game, technically, you could argue that Sans is a Deltarune character first and an Undertale character second, but even then, no.
I can't believe Super Smash Bros. Has a Deltarune and an Undertale character.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say.
Nope. He was my favorite in Chapter 1. He's not my but he wasn't like as strong as my actual favorite.
Oh my gosh. Susie.
No, by strong I just mean more like the feeling. I love Susie though. She's really grown on me.
Okay, I think me and the chat are stumped.
When you mentioned Stanton, I did say close. Giving you a hint.
Oh, wait. Okay. Yes. Okay, chat, you get it. Jenna.
Yes. Yes! I've been so obnoxious about him. Yes!
The amount of art, I believe, the T site, the TU site. Sometimes people don't like when I mention that they're on it, but the Blur site, there's so much art on there. I see every day. I'm not sure if you do, but I'm sure you do.
No, I do. I absolutely do. I see it on Blue Sky too, and Twitter, and whatever. I love seeing Tenna art. I love him so much. Oh my god, I have. It's been he's taken my brain into a vice for like 9 months. I don't know. I feel like that, but there's a time in my life I was like BT and AT before Tenna and after Tenna. Or actually, it would be more like BT and PT before Tenna and post Tenna. And you're meeting me at a very post Tenna time of my life.
That's so funny. I love that. Damn Tenna truther. People are asking.
Am I a Spantena truther? So here's my stance on it. I definitely think that they were a thing. I think that there is too much going on in terms of like the connections between them for me to think, oh, it's just coincidental. It is not coincidental. But as for whether I want them endgame, I'm actually not so sure about that. I know some people really, really want them endgame, and I won't be unhappy if they do end up endgame. I'm cool with whatever happens in the latest chapters, just so we're clear here. But if we're talking about my very personal ship biases and stuff, I would rather keep Tenna at Metaton's house, actually. I'm a Metatena truther. Or a Batena truther. If you ship Tenna and the little green pippins, yes, I love them too. I love that horrible thing whatever they've got going on.
Oh my gosh, yes, we love the Metatons and the Tennas. Oh my gosh. Metatons. Okay, here's an important question from chat. Is there doomed
Mhm.
yaoi or yuri in Violence?
Well, that's a great question. I think you should just wait for the full version of Interviolence, and
Yeah.
why not find out? I'll
Yeah.
be very vague.
There's a lot of things y'all can learn even from just the demo if you are very tentative about it. And
Of
there's
course.
interesting connections from the previous games into it, and I'm just like, wow. It's like, what do you mean? That was all of the demo. I was like, no, I'm so excited.
Mm. Well, that is the purpose of a demo, isn't it?
Yes, yes, definitely. And it was a very well made one, and I'm very excited about what comes next. And that's what I'm excited about in the future. Is there a couple of things you're looking forward to, whether it's releases or just things in general?
Yes, actually. So there are three games I'm looking forward to this year that on the top of my mind. One is Fate Extra Record, which is the remake of Fate Extra. I'm really, really looking forward to that. One is Deltarune Chapter 5, obviously, if I haven't gone off enough about that game. And one is Tomodachi Life, Living the Dream. I was a huge fan of
Yeah.
the original. I was a huge fan of the original game when I was a kid and stuff. So I'm really, really looking forward to this. What do you think?
Yes, us too. I can't believe it's already gonna come next month. We've been excited for it, and there's just I can't believe the amount of people you can have on the island, the amount of customization. I do wish they made it easier
Mm.
to share customization, but I totally understand too. Why not?
Yeah, because last time
Thanks
we
for
got some
checking in.
interesting results with the original Tomodachi Life. But it'll be interesting to see what other stuff goes on with the new game. Because as you said, the new customization stuff was amazing.
Yeah. Let's see. This is kind of a random question. Do you watch the Fate shows, or are you exclusively more about the games and the visual novels?
I have watched a couple of the shows. I am a big fan of Fate Extra Last Encore, the anime sequel, bad end sequel to the original Fate Extra. It's like very much a show that was made by Nasu first because of what he was personally interested in, and for the fans second. That's at least the sense I got from watching it anyway. But it has Nero in it. Nero is one of my favorite servants in the entire franchise, and so it was felt particularly tailored to me with the big focus on her and her relationship with Hakuno. And I love the background design in it, the kind of recontextualization of a lot of the characters and the like floors of Seraph. I really like the strata of Seraph. I really, really like that anime. I also quite like the Heaven's Feel movies. They missed out, like shaved off some details I liked from the original visual novel, but on the whole, I thought they were pretty solid with some fun action set pieces. And then I also watched the Fate Zero and the Fate Apocrypha anime, and I mean, like the Fate Apocrypha anime was kind of just okay to me, but there were some really outstanding moments of animation, especially in episode 22. Holy cow! Um, what else? Um, Other than that, I mean, I guess there's Emiya Gohan too. I really like that one. That's the closest thing we're ever gonna get right now
Yeah.
to a Fate Hollow Ataraxia anime. So I'll take it. I loved Fate Hollow Ataraxia, so I'll take it. And then there's Fate Strange Fake, which I haven't watched right now, but every clip I see of it looks absolutely batshit, which is true from every part of the light novel I heard before the anime came out.
Yeah, that has an interesting history to me. Apparently it started as the April Fool's joke or something,
It
and
did, yes. Fate States Night. It did.
then they should have kept that name.
Yeah, Fate States Night. Yeah, no, it's too good, but they had to go with Strange Fake just to make it not so confusing.
Okay, I believe we are running towards the end of the interview. Anything else you'd like to shout out about yourself in general?
All I just want to say is thank you for coming along by and listening to me talk about games and development for a bit, and I want to thank you too, Lux, for hosting me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. for joining us today, taking your time here. Thank you, everyone here in the live audience and in the future. Thank you for seeing us. Please play Interviolence. The demo is for free, and play the Violence series. It is for free, and you can support Mado as well and the team. Please do.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks
Bye.
for the Undertale stream.